SmackDown is trash. Yeah, you heard me right. SmackDown, the so-called blue brand, the supposed home of the big stars and the big fights, has fallen into a pit so deep, so embarrassing, that even WCW in its death spiral would be laughing at it. SmackDown is garbage right now, and it's time to break down why the once mighty show has become the wrestling equivalent of a wet paper bag in a Texas death match. Now, I want you to remember something. There was a time when SmackDown mattered. There was a time when SmackDown wasn't just a show, it was the show. It had Roman Reigns leading the bloodline like a mafia boss running Friday night television. It had Brock Lesnar popping up to suplex the life out of people, John Cena dropping in for electric crowd reactions, legends making cameos that made you jump off your couch. SmackDown felt like an event. It felt like must-see TV. It felt like the heartbeat of the wrestling world. But now SmackDown feels like an afterthought, a glorified rerun of Raw with less creativity, less fire, and less star power than a mid-2000s house show in Topeka. Fans aren't just disappointed, they're angry, they're tired, they're questioning why they even bother tuning in on Friday nights, because nothing screams trash fire louder than a product that used to be incredible but now limps around like it doesn't know what it wants to be anymore. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, star power, or should I say, the complete lack of it. Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the guy who single-handedly carried SmackDown for years, is basically gone. He pops in once in a blue moon, does his little wave, and then disappears back into his part-time bubble. Without Roman, SmackDown feels like a ship with no captain, no compass, and no chance in hell of finding land. And before the internet marks scream at me saying, but we still have Cody Rhodes, or but LA Knight is on SmackDown, let me stop you right there. Cody is already being mishandled like every top babyface WWE has ever mishandled, and LA Knight, as over as he is, cannot single-handedly carry a 2-hour show every single week without backup. The rest of the roster, it feels like a wasteland of mid-carders being thrown into storylines that go nowhere. SmackDown is suffering because WWE refuses to elevate new stars the right way. They either bury them 6 feet under with 50-50 booking, or they push them so hard with no long-term planning that fans get sick of them within weeks. Remember when Karrion Kross was supposed to be this unstoppable monster? Now he's practically a jobber with fancy smoke. Remember when Shinsuke Nakamura was treated like a legend in Japan? Now he's eating losses to guys who couldn't main event an NXT house show. The mismanagement of talent is so insane that you could hand Vince Russo the book and even he couldn't ruin things worse. And trust me, that's saying something. SmackDown's storytelling is about as compelling as a 2-hour episode of people standing in the ring and cutting promos about nothing. Where are the layered rivalries? Where are the shocking twists? Where are the stories that make fans want to tune in next week to see what happens? Instead, we get endless rematches. The same guys fighting each other over and over like Groundhog Day. The same interference finishes that make you want to throw your remote across the room. It's lazy, it's uninspired, and it insults the intelligence of fans who have been watching this stuff for decades. Triple H is supposed to be the savior, right? The guy who brought us NXT Black and Gold, the guy who understands long-term booking, the guy who actually respects wrestlers and storytelling. But SmackDown proves that even the game can fumble the ball worse than Mark Sanchez running the butt fumble. What we're seeing isn't genius. It isn't calculated. It's lazy booking dressed up as slow burn storytelling, when in reality it's just dragging your feet because you don't know what else to do. They've forgotten that fans want drama, spectacle, unpredictability. Instead, we're stuck watching shows that feel like creative is asleep at the wheel, snoring into their notes while the same matches happen for the 10th straight week. When Roman was around, the crowd was molten. People were chanting, screaming, living and dying with every segment. Now, half the crowd is sitting on their phones, politely clapping like they're at a golf tournament. And social media? Don't even get me started. Twitter or X or whatever Elon's calling it this week is flooded every Friday night with the same complaint. SmackDown is boring. Reddit threads are filled with fans saying they turned off the show halfway through. YouTube comment sections are filled with people begging for WWE to fix Friday nights. The fan base is revolting in real time, and WWE acts like it doesn't even care. The absence of Roman Reigns didn't just hurt SmackDown, it completely shattered its identity. SmackDown was the Bloodline's show. It was Roman's empire. It had purpose. Every segment, every match, every promo was tied into this overarching story that felt like a television drama. Without that, SmackDown feels like filler. It's like watching a season of your favorite TV show after the lead actor quits. Sure, the show goes on, but the magic is gone, and WWE hasn't figured out how to fill that void. They could have elevated someone like Gunther, turned LA Knight into the centerpiece, or finally given someone like AJ Styles one last main event run, but instead, they've let SmackDown spiral into irrelevance. And let's not forget about the overexposure of certain wrestlers. How many times are we supposed to see the same acts every week while actual talent rots away backstage? SmackDown has one of the most stacked rosters on paper, yet somehow they managed to make it look like a shallow pond. Talents like Cameron Grimes, Butch, or even guys like Santos Escobar barely get meaningful time, while we're force-fed the same predictable nonsense. It's like WWE is actively sabotaging its own product by refusing to freshen things up. Wrestling is built on moments. The pops, the swerves, the unexpected debuts, the cliffhangers. SmackDown doesn't have that anymore. Nothing feels urgent, nothing feels important. It's just 2 hours of content to fill time before the weekend. And when fans feel like they could miss a show and not miss anything, that's when you know you're in trouble. Here's the thing about SmackDown right now. It doesn't even feel like the same show that used to be called the Land of Opportunity. That phrase meant something once. It meant if you weren't getting the spotlight on Raw, you could come to SmackDown and carve out your legacy. Think about the eras when guys like Edge, Eddie Guerrero, Kurt Angle, Batista, Rey Mysterio, and JBL made Friday nights feel like the proving ground. That's when SmackDown was alive. Now, calling it the Land of Opportunity is like calling a swamp a luxury resort. Opportunity doesn't exist here. Only stagnation, wasted potential, and recycled ideas that fans see through instantly. How many times are we going to watch WWE bury guys that should be game changers? Let's take Gunther as an example. This guy is a machine, a once-in-a-generation talent with the look, the presence, the work rate, and the aura to be a legit main eventer for the next decade. Yet on SmackDown, he's booked like an afterthought. He should be centerpiece material, but instead he's tossed into secondary programs that don't elevate him or the brand. Then you've got someone like Santos Escobar, who could have been the next breakout Latino star. Instead of pushing him as a charismatic leader of a stable that could dominate the show, they've got him floundering around in meaningless matches, stripped of momentum. This is criminal misuse of talent, plain and simple, and it drags the entire show down. SmackDown used to flow like a wrestling symphony, high energy opener, compelling mid-card stories, and a main event that left you buzzing. Now the pacing feels like molasses. Segments drag on, matches that should be 5 minutes stretch to 15 with nothing interesting happening, and backstage promos feel like they're written on the back of a napkin 2 minutes before airtime. It's like the show has no rhythm, no urgency. You can feel the air being sucked out of the arena as the crowd dies during long, plodding stretches. That's how you know you've lost your grip. Crowd energy is the lifeblood of wrestling, and SmackDown doesn't know how to generate it anymore. The last time you heard an earth-shattering reaction on SmackDown, it was either Roman cutting one of his Mafia Boss promos or LA Knight with his "yeah" chants echoing through the arena. Outside of that, it's crickets. Fans aren't reacting because WWE isn't giving them anything worth reacting to. The wrestlers are talented, no question, but they're stuck in a system that strips away their charisma and individuality, leaving them as shells of what they could be. That kills the live atmosphere, and when the live crowd is dead, the TV product suffers too. And what about the women's division? Don't even get me started. SmackDown has some of the most gifted women in wrestling. Bayley, Io Sky, Asuka, Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, Shotzi, the list goes on. Yet somehow, week after week, the booking reduces them to meaningless filler matches, short segments, or random multi-woman bouts with no story, no stakes, and no payoff. How do you have this much talent and still make the division feel like an afterthought? Fans want stories, rivalries, and reasons to care. Instead, what they get is the creative team throwing names into a hat and booking matches with no build. That's not how you create stars. That's how you waste them. Then there's the commentary. Remember when SmackDown commentary added to the product? Think back to the days of Michael Cole and Taz, or even Mauro Ranallo screaming his lungs out calling matches like they were the fight of the century. Commentary used to make you feel the urgency, the stakes, the drama. Now it feels robotic. The commentators are clearly just reciting whatever the suits in the back are feeding them through headsets. There's no authenticity, no excitement, no passion. And when commentary doesn't believe in what's happening, how can fans? You want to know another reason SmackDown feels so trash? Over-reliance on nostalgia acts without doing the work to build new ones. Sure, they'll bring back John Cena for a couple of shows, or tease The Rock in some storyline, but those are band-aids, not solutions. The crowd pops for one night, but once those legends are gone again, the show collapses back into mediocrity. You can't build a brand on cameos. You have to invest in the future, and SmackDown simply isn't doing that. They're clinging to the past because they're scared to commit to the next generation. That's cowardly booking, because right now, SmackDown isn't just bad, it's embarrassing. It's a shell of its former self, and unless WWE changes course fast, Friday nights will continue to be the biggest disappointment in professional wrestling.